Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, my original channel. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Well, in this video, I want to talk about Dr. Claud Anderson once again, and shout out to Dr. Boyce Watkins for calling Dr. Anderson to our collective attentions in 2019, 2020, and 2021. I'm of the opinion that this is someone who should have been in the spotlight throughout my life, which started in the mid-1970s, and somehow I only started hearing about him in my in recent times due to the vigilance of Dr. Boyce Watkins. So I appreciate that, and this is highly relevant to the last election, the Biden-Harris election, and it's going to be relevant to Foundation of Black America going forward. In much of my content, I've talked about Dr. Claud Anderson and his book Powernomics, and I've written blog posts. I think it was last year. I wrote 2 blog posts surrounding Black History Month, including some discussion of Dr. Claud Anderson, and I'm gonna leave both of those below this video, but the one that pairs well with this particular video is that dealing with whether or not social integration damaged and permanently killed Black business. Now, also keep in mind that for Black History Month, and we're almost done with Black History Month 2021, and it's the shortest month of the year. Keep in mind that many of the topics that I cover are things that aren't often associated with Black History Month, and they're questions that often aren't associated with Black History Month, and they're questions that might make some people uncomfortable, but I think that they're important questions and topics nonetheless. So if it looks like I'm trying to stir things up, that's not necessarily true, but on this channel, I like to promote critical thought, and I like to ask important questions. So that blog post is going to be below, and one of the fundamental questions Dr. Anderson asked on the Breakfast Club interview that I cited in that blog post is white ice colder? So when you think about Black business in the United States, there are usually 2 main discussion points. One is how hard it is to conduct Black business with other Black people because other businesses owned by other ethnic groups are preferred, but also in many instances Black businesses are undermined by other Black people looking for hookups and looking for discounts and looking for benefits and those kinds of things. So that's one part of the discussion, and then the other part is how Black businesses are not supported by other Black people and how other ethnic groups stick together more effectively and consolidate their resources. And so that brings me to this passage from chapter 2 of Dr. Claud Anderson's book Powernomics. Chapter 2 is entitled The Keys to Empowerment, and in this chapter Dr. Anderson talks about numerous paradigms that foundational Black America would have to adopt and incorporate in order to economically empower itself and change its standing in this country. So I'm going to read 2 pages, actually, what will be equivalent to about 2 pages, but these are very, very powerful passages. And I'm just working myself through this book, and as we're in Black History Month, I just thought it would be worth capturing this, and it's worth thinking about for everyone who listens to this. And if you listen to this and you think it's important and you feel brave enough and courageous enough to share this in your familial circle or with your friends, then go ahead and do so. In any case, paradigm number one is ethno-aggregation. And this reads as follows. Ethno-aggregation is best defined as the voluntary concentration of individuals and their resources around their ethnic or language commonalities for the purpose of improving their economic and political competitiveness. The term ethno-aggregation may be new, but the concept is not. It is a behavior pattern used every day by religious, gender, ethnic, and Spanish-speaking groups. The culture of these groups emphasizes that members rally around common characteristics or attributes in order to pool their collective resources and compete with non-group members. According to the Powernomics plan, the primary purpose for ethno-aggregation is to convert disaggregated Black individuals and groups into a national team and to concentrate their resources. The more concentrated their resources, the greater their impact and competitive advantage will be. For Black Americans, this paradigm is important because it directly reverses past conditioning and is the antidote for Willie Lynchism, in parentheses, the slaveholder plan to divide and conquer Black slaves. Ethno-aggregation encourages Blacks to unify as a people as an alternative to seeking to unite with others. It encourages Blacks to pool their resources. A fist has greater impact than 5 separate fingers, but a scattered group is like separate fingers. The impact of the 5 fingers working together as a fist has an even stronger impact if directed towards the weakest part of a competitive force. An aggregated group has a competitive advantage over a group whose resources are scattered. Likewise, ethno-aggregation is most effective when the resources are organized and directed. Blacks already ethno-aggregate every time they attend all Black churches and participate in the Million Man March. In politics, we have voted as a bloc within both the Republican or Democratic Party, and although we have seldom received direct benefits, our collective voting has testified to our political strength and our ability to ethno-aggregate. We must now learn to be more strategic with our ability to ethno-aggregate in politics and learn how to unite and concentrate our financial resources to achieve group economic goals, just as whites and ethnic immigrants have done for centuries. And he italicized unite, concentrate, and financial, as in financial resources. So this next passage is very, very powerful. It's entitled Examples of Ethno-Aggregation. And as I read about this, and as I read through this, think about the question. Think about the question, is white ice colder? Think about Pam Keith's comment about when there was the dust up over which way Black men would vote and which way Black women would vote. Think about Pam Keith's comment about we as Black people, we love everybody. We welcome in everybody. Think about the whole immigration discussion. It's a very complex discussion. So, examples of ethno-aggregation. Our society is replete with examples of how whites and ethnic groups aggregate for political and economic competitive advantages in the marketplace. Organizing begets group power. Before the Black Civil Rights Movement, Europeans, in parentheses, English, Jews, Irish, Germans, and Italians, used their togetherness as a social and economic foundation. American Indians have been successful in using their ethnic image and treaty rights to hold onto reservation lands and government subsidies. In recent years, they have enjoyed windfall wealth from their approximately 257 gambling casino permits. Newly arrived ethnic and language groups aggregate their resources to build political and economic communities such as Chinatowns, Little Koreas, Little Cambodias, Little Saigons, Little Vietnams, and Little Havanas. Of all the above, Miami's Cuban community in South Florida represents probably the most visible model of ethno-aggregation in the country. Cubans control the political and economic activities of South Florida, which has become their home turf. As they come into the country, they first rallied around their common language characteristics, then voluntarily aggregated into the same neighborhoods and established businesses. Next, they began to compete with non-members of their group. They took control of politics, the schools, and dominated the language. They take pride in being a closed society. They are very nationalistic and sometimes even push the rule of law. In political and economic terms, Cubans have placed a flag in the ground around Little Havana, Hialeah, and South Florida. From behind their Latin culture and Spanish language, they aggressively intervene in international affairs. They play a key role in Radio Marti, radio programming beamed directly at Cuba via satellite for the sole purpose of erasing or interfering with Cuba's regular radio broadcasting. They have flown airplanes into Cuban airspace to drop leaflets and interfere with the Castro government. They have rallied around common characteristics, pooled their resources, and improved their economic and political standing. Cubans in South Florida require those who come into their area to play their game by their rules. Within one generation, Cuban immigrants economically and politically subordinated Black Miamians and became a political challenge to whites throughout the state of Florida. I've been to Miami, by the way, and I've seen Hialeah. Well, I drove past Hialeah, and it is a stronghold, and they are very, very proud of it. Now, also keep in mind, during the 2020 election on election night, Florida went for Donald Trump. Cubans are known for being a conservative bloc, and on the station that I was watching the election results roll in on, they did say that. They did note that there's a strong conservative voting bloc in South Florida, which helps to dictate which way Florida goes in terms of the Electoral College. So keep that in mind. Now, this is interesting because I did spend time in southeastern Michigan when I was doing my PhD at the University of Michigan. Arab immigrants in and around Detroit are probably the second best example of ethno-aggregation. They began coming into this country around the same time as Cubans in the late 1960s, and, like Cubans, they ethno-aggregated to such an extent that within a 30-year period, they totally subordinated blacks in selected cities and have begun to challenge the majority white society for both wealth and power. Approximately 275,000 Arabs immigrated into the Dearborn, Michigan, and Detroit areas initially. In that short time period, Arabs built the largest, wealthiest, and most powerful political base outside of the Middle East. They invest their profits to build more businesses in black communities. They also exclusively hire their own people and refuse to buy from black businesses. Black Detroiters serve as a large, concentrated consumer pool that Arabs use to enrich themselves and their countries of origin. Detroit is an 82% black city. According to an article in the Detroit News, the Metro edition, July 8th, 1999, Arabs who constitute less than 1% of the city's metropolitan area population have taken control of 90% of the city's gas stations, grocery stores, party stores, discount strip malls, and medical supply businesses. According to the article, Arab businesses were so profitable last year that their owners sent $69 million back to their homelands to help Arabs who were fighting with Israel in the Middle East. This drain of capital weakened Black Detroit, but it strengthened the developing Arab communities. Once Arab immigrants aggregated and concentrated the resources in and around Detroit, they increasingly used their acquired economic power to obtain local political power. Now, this is where it gets really good. This is 20 years ago. Now, keep in mind what just transpired in the 2020 election. Arabs know that politics follows the money. In this regard, it was reported that when Al Gore, the vice president of the United States, visited Detroit in the summer of 1999, he chose to meet with the top 100 Arab businessmen, not the black political leadership. That's worth reading a second time. Arabs know that politics follows the money. In this regard, it was reported that when Al Gore, the vice president of the United States, visited Detroit in the summer of 1999, he chose to meet with the top 100 Arab businessmen, not the black political leadership. So think about the controversy surrounding Ice Cube. Think about the discussion about demanding tangibles for your vote. And also think about who the politicians serve once they actually get into office versus who voted for them and versus who supported their campaigns financially. This all goes together. And think about Ice Cube getting eviscerated. And think about Ice Cube talking about economics and the private industry prior to the 2020 election. Arabs pledged heavy financial support to Gore, and in return for their financial pledges, they asked for greater business opportunities in Black Detroit. Arabs are now in the phase of ethno-aggregation, where they are beginning to use the wealth and power they acquired from blacks to politically and economically subordinate blacks. To shore up, protect, and give credibility to their ethno-aggregation, Detroit Arabs hold street festivals and encourage blacks and whites to attend. They engender pride in their own people by promoting their culture, religion, and language, while masking over the economic competitiveness that they are conducting against blacks in Detroit. It is their ethno-aggregation that gives Arab immigrants their competitive advantages over black Americans. They use their cultural togetherness to compete for economic and political resources. Even though Arabs may have religious differences with Jews and some Christians, they are still classified as whites and receive the advantage of a higher level of social acceptability than blacks. Arab immigrants use their ethnic advantages by remaining an identifiable, non-assimilated group politically and economically linked into a national and international network. So that's from Powernomics. This book is about 20 years old. Again, for most of my adult life, there's been no mention of this book or any of those two passages that I just read from chapter 2. And I'm just early in the book. And, they say knowledge is power. They also say if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book. And so it's my opinion that this information has been consciously buried and kept out of the public sphere. I didn't read any of this to demonize any of the other ethnic groups, and I don't think Dr. Anderson wrote this to demonize any of the ethnic groups, but instead to attempt to wake up foundational Black America. So again, as you think about this, think about Pam Keith's comments about we accept everybody, we love everybody. Think about the question, is white ice colder? And also, I'm going to close with a discussion that I had with my mother, who is a boomer, probably around Thanksgiving or Christmas, where I actually asked the question, did social integration kill Black business? My mother got quiet. And, they lived through the civil rights era and Jim Crow and those things. So they were fighting hard for social integration and to use the same water fountains and to use the same bathrooms and even to ride on white buses. But what was the cost of all that? What was the end result? She got quiet and she said, that's a difficult discussion and that's a difficult question to ponder. So I'm going to leave that right there. I mean, it's easy for us to... I think I know what my opinion on that is. I think that it did hurt our businesses, and we do have a hard time ethno-aggregating right now in 2021. I don't know if this can be undone and if the course can be reversed. But I also see the other side that at that time they were striving to be a part of the entire country. But there may have been a bigger cost to that. In any case, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel if you want to throw something in the tip jar. That information is below this video as well. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.